Hi, it's you and Ellery here making bonsai in Australia, and in this video I'm going to go over what I'm doing to turn my new Schefflera into a bonsai. So this is a Schefflera or a dwarf umbrella tree which I bought from a local little nursery, and today I'm going to have a look at it and see what I can do. So initially it looks like it's either, you can see there's two trunks coming out of the soil, so I'm going to have to rake back that soil just to figure out whether or not it's actually two trunks or whether it can be grown in kind of like a clump style Schefflera bonsai, or if I can split it or what have you. So I'll start raking away the topsoil and see what I have to work with. So before I start on that, I'm just going to give a brief update on my little flame trees. So in one of my latest videos I planted these seeds, and as you can see it's only a week or so later and they're starting to sprout. And here's a lot of my other seeds coming along. And a mulberry, which will come into another video, so if you want to see a video on that, just hit the like button. Okay, so just get it out of its pot first. Alright, so it really looks like it's been a little bit too eager on the latest repotting job. It looks very loose. It's not really pot bound at all in this pot. Okay, so it's definitely two little Scheffleras, and you can see the last, when they put it into this pot, they had a couple, must have had a couple of tube stock trees that they were growing, because this one is pretty much in the same shape. They clearly haven't done anything about the roots to help them grow there. So interesting. It's very it's quite nice soil actually they've got it in. It's very large green bark, good for drainage. Okay, so you can definitely see that yeah, this one was, the roots have started coming out of here, but they haven't really done a lot in terms of really helping the some really long ones there, but there's still a lot of root structure which is really just wrapped up in what used to be the root stock down here. It's got a lot of perlite in there. The nabari up the top is really kind of wrapped around, so I'm going to have to figure out what I want to do with that. So I'm just going to rinse off the rest of the soil just so I can see what I'm working with. Alright, so it's a very compact root system, and yeah, like I mentioned, it's really just kind of wrapped around itself. So I'll see what I can straighten out and what I can work with, because I'm kind of keen on growing it as a little bit of a clump structure, so I guess the root system doesn't matter too much to begin with. So I'm going to get rid of this giant root that's kind of, yeah, it's super long. Don't really need that, so hopefully that'll yeah, start forming into a few smaller sized roots there. Same with some of these other really long ones. So I really don't want the yeah, let it kind of grow out a little bit more, especially where their roots are kind of like angling around and wrapping around itself. Just want to get rid of some of those. So I don't really need to do too much pruning there. Now I am going to prune the top part here as well. So I've got this branch which is coming out down the bottom there, you can see that, and I really want to keep that there just to kind of help with a little bit of taper in the trunk. So you can see there as well, they've cut it back there in the past and shot up a couple of branches here. But I really don't want it to be that tall to begin with. I really want it to bud back a lot and really get a lot of branching out from the bottom, hopefully some aerial roots, and yeah, turn it into a bit of a clump structure. So I'm going to probably prune it back quite severely for now. And I'll also see what I can, if I can plant a couple of these things from cutting. So for now I'm going to prune off this big tall branch, just prune it back to there. A couple of leaves left on it. Same with this branch, just prune it back to get it to back bud a little bit more. And this bottom one, it's really not going to look anything like a bonsai at this stage. It's unfortunately a little bit small, or not very significant branches at this point, so I'm almost considering just letting it grow with that, but just want to make it a little bit more compact. Some of these roots are just growing. Wow, one of those is coming up and wrapping around itself again from down underneath the root system, from under the ground there, coming back up and wrapping around up the top. So I'll cut that off. Really, I might try and do a bit of work just to try and get a nice radial root system established. Might do a bit of damage to the tree, but in the long run I think it'll work out quite alright. Right, it's about as much root pruning as I think I can really get away with, and because I've root pruned it quite significantly, I'm really going to cut down a lot of the branching off the top as well. So just prune back the leaves, I suppose, give it a bit more. Branch is growing all the way out the weird position over there. Alright, so there we have that for now. So I'll leave a few leaves on it and just get it off. Now unfortunately I don't really have an overly suitable pot for it. Put out a few pots, but I thought this tree was going to be a lot larger. I thought it was one tree as opposed to the two, so work with what I have, but yeah, I'll probably put this in here for now. I'll bury it quite deep just to keep those roots really covered if I can. So now that I've got it in the pot, I'm just going to pour some more soil on top, just cover those the roots that are still there. And I don't really have a fine root system yet, so I don't really need to kind of work it with a chopstick to get all of the soil in amongst the roots. The root system was kind of just one little blob there, so this should pack around it nicely. Okay, so I'll water that and then I'll start on my next bonsai. Alright, so this one has a lot more, it seems like it's got a little bit of a bigger root system to start off with, although again, and in this case it all seems to be very compact in this root bound system. They really didn't do a good job in replanting these trees. So I'll work out this root system and hopefully that'll give it a lot better chance to actually start growing. You'll notice that the last one, it had a lot of root system which would kind of seem like it had grown out the top and all over in weird places, but it was definitely growing out of the root bound mass. This one hasn't seemed to have gotten that opportunity yet, so anyway, I'll work it out, see what's there to work with, put it into a new pot, and hopefully that'll give it a lot better opportunity to grow with a lot more vigor over the next couple of years, I imagine. Alright, so I've worked out most of the soil that was around those roots. So again, what I'm going to do is just rinse the roots off. Alright, so we've got a much less compact root system on this one. So again, we've got these really long tendrils that seem to have wrapped themselves around each other in that little training pot it was before they put it into this larger pot. So I'm going to have to cut off some of these really long roots. So just do that now. And again, we've got all these really annoying roots which kind of wrap themselves around the tree, so I'll just prune them all back to where they kind of start going in this weird direction, just so I can get a nice radial root system. And I also would really like a nice flat root system ultimately as well, so I'm just pruning off where the roots get too really big and chunky down the bottom, just so that all the roots can grow out radially to get a nice root structure in the future. So let's really prune back a lot of roots there, but didn't really have that many to work with to begin with, and the tree was looking nice and healthy, so hopefully we won't have too much of a problem here. So I'll leave the rest of the roots that we've got there, see how that goes into the future. Hopefully it works well. So now I'm just going to slightly prune the top of this and then see how we'll go from there. So branches aren't really as large on this tree, yet again I kind of want to just prune it back a bit just so it can bud back a little bit further down, get some good growth as it establishes. So I'm actually going to cut this branch probably around here, so that hopefully bit of directional pruning, and might branch off up this way. Probably don't want that branch. This one here, I could probably just get rid of. There's a couple branches lower down, so it'll probably bud back. And this main top one, again there's a few little branches low down, so I'll cut that back and that should grow nicely. Cool, so there it is, nice and compact. So again, I don't really have a suitable size pot for the Schefflera. It is really small. And yeah, I thought it was going to be much larger, so I don't have a small size pot to put it in. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put it into this larger kind of almost a landscape style pot. Just to see how it goes, give it a little bit more room to grow into a more of a clump style bonsai in the future. A bit more time to grow in this. I'll probably leave it in this pot for a few years. And what I might also do is I've got a few bits of cutting that I've cut off the other tree. A couple small ones that I've cut off this one as well. So what I'm going to do is I'll put it in this pot, turn it into a little bit more of a landscape style pot. Landscape tile bonsai, and I'll put a couple little bits of cuttings in there as well, just on the off chance that they might sprout up and it might start to look a little bit like a forest in the short term over the next couple of years. So we'll start with that, see how we go. Okay, so for starters, just going to put over my mesh. So this is just old mesh that I've used previously. Don't really need to tie it down at this point because I'm going to put a layer of soil on top, so that's going to hold it. So just throw on a layer of soil. So I don't want this Schefflera to be planted exactly in the middle. So probably put it here, that side branch jutting out, so if it branches out more it'll come out over the end of the pot. Don't have my chopsticks on me right now, so the root system on this one was a little bit more loose, so I'm just making sure that I've got my soil properly in and around the root system and there aren't any big air holes, just so that the roots don't dry out and die. With the little amount of roots that I do have in this from the get-go, I really want to make sure that I treat them as well as possible. So that's about the positioning that I want in that pot to begin with. I'm also going to put just a couple rocks in. And a bit more soil on top. Alright, so now that I've got that in, I'll start working on my cuttings. So, just pull the leaves off the main stalk that I've got there. Just cut that properly. Really don't want many of these leaves left here. Alright, so now that I've got the cutting in there, I really only had enough for one large cutting. Smaller cuttings I really don't think they're going to work that well, especially in this kind of soil, so I'll water this as well. Alright, so I've now watered both of my new little bonsais. So here you have this one, still dripping a little bit, but yeah, so in a little bit of a landscape pot. It's a little bit large for now. It's not looking anything special right at this moment, but we'll train them just as pre-bonsai at this stage, and I'm sure that'll start looking good in a couple of years time, or at least at the end of spring. And here's my other one, yeah, a little bit larger, this one here, and starting to look okay already. So there you have it, my two new early stages Schefflera bonsais. So yeah, if you've liked this video, please leave a like and comment, and subscribe if you haven't already to see more of my future videos as I release them. So look, thanks for your time today. Enjoy your day.